right. Hello. This is our last class. Let me make sure this Wi-Fi is not on here so I don't get messed up. Okay. Get any resistance here. Wi-Fi. Okay. Last class. So those of you who are watching this later on YouTube, your free ride is over. But basically, it is only because what we're going to be working on next year, or this year actually, 2024 and 25, is stuff that I've been told directly not to share for those who are not seeking it. So those of you who are choosing this, I have carte blanche, and I'm going to be bringing in some other specialists. So we'll be working off of their stuff as well, and that's going to help us fill in all of the holes that you probably have experienced on your metaphysical journey. Because again, when we tend to be attracted to the metaphysical journey, it is usually because we have some resistance and wounding also from religious programming. So that all has to be cleaned up, all of it, because you are a holistic being. So, you know, what we do as a metaphysical community is we tend to kind of like push away the past and you know, kind of like change our name and change everything about ourselves, and then like work on learning to be in the present moment and work on our own gifts. But you have to understand that if you're born into that lineage and that reality, you are also going to feel the effects of all of that nature as well. Now you're so powerful that if you remember how to truly use your power, which is what we're doing in this year's class, Becoming Superhuman, it's literally as easy as brushing your teeth, because that's who you are. Your nature is infinite power. But when we kind of close doors and we deny and we push away and we have old pain from the familiar wounds and the familiar spirits, they actually become more aggressive on your metaphysical journey. And this is why, like, when you get closer to Christ energy, that's why you hear, you know, don't do the tarot cards, don't do all this witchcraft stuff. And it's not that any of those things in its true nature are inherently negative. But when you have resistance on some part of your own reality, then you're going to find ways to attract it with kind of lukewarm truth. Okay. So like someone asked me yesterday, it's like, oh, tarot cards are bad. Tarot cards are not bad. But the thing is when you seek a tarot card from lack, from I don't trust myself, when I don't know the answer to myself, who can channel through those cards for you? What vibration are you in when you're having those cards done? Now, if you're dropping into your Christ that I am, and you're like, I'm going to see what my blah, blah, blah says, but you're not doing it from a place of lack, well, then inherently it has a completely different vibration, because in this universe, everything, including the demonic world, is inherently neutral. One of the things that I'm learning from my demonology classes is that God actually controls every ounce of demon activity, everything. So when we are experiencing these things, there is a reason. And the reason is contrast and awakening, contrast, responsibility. Okay. So when we start to think like, why is God letting this happen? It's all for our teaching, our ascension. You know, like Abraham Hicks says, we came here for the contrast. I don't think we really got what she meant, because the level of contrast is not just like if I like ice cream or not. It is, you are the spirit of light in a body that has been basically programmed, hypnotized, and controlled for thousands of years from the spirit of dark. So it was almost like the devil and God himself literally had a child that would be the totality of you. And in order for you to have your full ascension to move back into your light body, you have to resolve the inner conflict that you will experience by having such an extreme nature of duality. So your whole video experience game, your simulation, is to create non-duality from duality. That is why you're separate in nature. You get separated by the time you're 5 from your source. And then it becomes a game of hide and seek and hot and cold until usually pain, pressure, injustice wakes you up, right? And then that is when you continue to start to go on your expansion. But that will all be covered this year. This class is going to be a little bit, it may even get taken down by YouTube. Who knows? Because I Googled the topic that I'm going to be giving you guys today, and I could not find anything. I've seen different forms of harvesting energy on internet, but I didn't find anything that I'm going to disclose today. So who knows how long this video will last. For you guys, you'll obviously, once our website is live, you'll have access to all of the archives, which I think is going to be in the next few hours, which is good news. So those of you who have access to like the alchemy work and all that, you'll have your login and you'll have that grandfathered in for you so that you can kind of go back. Because like almost now, I was even looking at my warrior training from 2018 and I'm like, it still needs to be looked at. So again, where you guys are might not be where someone else who's brand new is coming in, and it just to have the refresher, especially if you aren't going to be joining us next year. What I would say is like the advice that I gave Dominique is like, you're not here to really learn anything. You're here to remove the untruths, because the truth is going to be underneath all of those lies. The truth is going to be, your power is going to be under all of that suppression. Your power is in getting out of the hypnosis of the matrix, because then you will remember that you are God, that you are a child of God, and that infinite power on how to reserve it and use it for collective expansion versus being harvested, which is the class I'm teaching today. So those of you guys who are joining us next year, you already have like these 5 or 6 videos just to kind of like plant seeds on the direction where we're going to be going this year. And notice how none of them are my classes. So I'm moving into this state of kind of student teacher, and I'm taking classes from the experts in their fields that work with our metaphysical nature, especially when you kind of like throw that quantum word around. That quantum word means basically like the totality of all. So you cannot be a specialist in one area and have ignorance or resistance in another area and call your work quantum. This is why I've been studying Catholicism this year. Like everybody in the culture tends to have their niche. Like the Egyptian deities and all these things, they tend to have a niche. And so we as the quantum beings, we need to study these messages that have been given to us, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. It's still very important information that you don't want to learn secondhand. You want to go right to the source. And then you can discern, decide, and choose who you are and what meaning you're going to give that idea. So, like, I've been studying this amazing Catholic priest who specializes in exorcisms. Now, I had a belief system before I took that class that all exorcists or all Catholic priests were pedophiles. You know what I mean? So it's like, this is the indoctrination that we have picked up from the mainstream metaphysical community. And it's really just not true, because you'll notice in each religion, there is the truth of what they were working to, like there's a light Mormons and there's dark Mormons. There's light Christians and there's dark Christians. And what you're going to see this year, especially, is all forms of exposure. So the things that end up standing at the end of this year are going to be the ones that have been standing in integrity. Okay. That means false prophets, false teachers, false gurus, all going to be exposed this year. All right. And I think that individually, we are all being very much pressurized to make sure that we are leading ourselves and our clients and our students from that authentic place, which means that there was a lot of things I found about my character this last year that was not necessarily very Christed in nature. Yet I did not have a reference point because it was coming from lack, but there was a good intention. And that is the biggest trap is, our intentions are good, but they might be coming from a lack, scarcity, a wound, a trauma that is the absence of love in nature. So when you act and think and feel from the absence of love, you're not going to be making great choices. Now, let's take into consideration the subconscious, which is where all of your belief systems have been formulated, packed in, and that's the reality that you're providing. Because what we're all going through on a collective level is that we are plugged into the collective consciousness. Okay, so you have to look at that like a hive mind. And the hive mind has its own agenda. All right. Now you have access to the hive mind, and you also have access to the quantum mind, or the God mind, or the quantum field of possibilities, whatever you want to call that God matrix. You also have you're working in that. You're working simultaneously in a created collective and then the creator's collective. The problem with that is that you're going to have to learn and discern which one is which one for your truth. Because the one that's going to feel the most familiar is not the superconscious matrix. The one that's going to feel the most familiar is the one that you have been indoctrinated and enslaved into. And that is going to be the one that has programmed your physical vessel, your physical body. All right, because that has been being groomed for hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years now, to get us to this point. See, the thing about the secondary game, or the spirit of death, is that it's eternal death. So it doesn't care how many thousands of generations it takes to basically encapsulate your entire subconscious, so that you're no longer even tapping into the super consciousness. So if you're not going in and imagining a better life for yourself ever, then you're never tapping into that field. If you're never thinking like, wow, what would it be if like I didn't have these problems? Let me sit and imagine that. You're not even tapping into your source. You're tapping into the collective mind of what should I do about this bill? And what happens if this happens? And then what happens with that is you're filling your energy into that collective, and it's making it bigger. Okay. So this class today is called How Humans Are Harvested. Now that sounds really creepy, and it is on all levels. So if you have a weak stomach or you're not ready to hear this, don't watch it. Okay. That goes for anybody out there watching it on live. And so I basically like went into meditation and also did my physical research, right, on the manifested Akashic records, aka the internet. And I compared what I was getting in my downloads, what I was getting from my guides, and what I was actually seeing online as far as the generated world that we are all enslaved to through. We are enslaved into this world through the subconscious mind. Okay. The conscious mind is when the version of you that's questioning it all the time. Okay. The subconscious mind is fully enslaved. And I will maybe say fully, but maybe if you've done a lot of inner work or done a lot of confession work or done a lot of guilt and shame work, then you might be 20, 30%. But if not, you might still be wanting different, but doing what you are supposed to do constantly and feeling very heavy and weighed down. So the first, I'm going to kind of try to go like general, and then I'll go into the more specific how the energy is harvested. Because as a human, well, first of all, let me tell you why they harvest you. Number one, then there's 3 things, and this right here should totally empower you. The 3 reasons that humans are harvested, because let's go into that. Why would they need to harvest our energy? Is because we feel so devalued and self-conscious, like who would want this, right? Well, that's intentional, because the totality of you, God manifested in human form, there's a lot to work with there. Okay. So you think of when someone, like, especially American Indians, when they were doing it more from a righteous, like right thinking, right mindset, when they would consider the animals sacred that they were eating, and they would use every part of that cow or buffalo, and they would have extreme gratitude for that service. And that's how they stayed in harmony. That is not how it happens with you. If you've noticed one thing about the spirit of death, it is very wasteful, very, very wasteful. It's very consumer based and very wasteful. So the best way to think of it is kind of like a hive mind, yet a parasite in nature. So if you looked at what a parasite actually did to your body, their waste alone is toxic. But all I want to do is expand and dominate, because that's where the power is. Is one little tiny parasite is nothing. You squish it like a bug. But if there's an infestation, that feels different. That's usually when there's complications with the health. That complicates mental health. So to me, the way that my guidance showed the spirit of death is very parasitic in nature, which means very powerless. All it wants to do is consume the energy of life so it can stay alive for 5 minutes. Remember, battery operated. And so it's in this for the long game, which means that let's go back to the Nazi Germany situation of that genocide. That had nothing to do with spiritual war. That had nothing to do with Germans and Jews. They were both in on it from the top, and they were experimenting on humans to see different ways that they could harvest the human energy, because they knew that this great awakening was coming. So they were actually planning for what is happening right now then. And they had the excuse, right? All wars are an excuse for harvesting humans, by the way. It's never been money, because they print the money. It's never been guns. They don't need guns. It's a spiritual war. All the wars have been spiritual wars. No war has been physical. But every human that's been involved in the war was for different aspects of controlling different levels of humanity, which means we are the commodity and we are the currency. It is never money. Remember, they made up the money to give us something to fight over. They're spiritual in nature. They don't need any of it. Okay. And they've been here for as old as they've been stuck here. So they're not going without, but they cannot generate their own imagination. Okay. They can't imagine this. We are imagining this for them. So when you think, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this Bill? And he was such a jerk, blah, 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 blah. You're feeding the matrix by having that imaginary thought. And because it's negative in nature, you're fueling the collective consciousness every time. Every time. Now think about how many people who are very loving and kind in nature, maybe even healers or empaths or sensitives, have those imaginary conversations every day. So we wonder how this has been able to stay. Okay. So number one, because they don't have their own imagination, they are harvesting and manifesting through ours. That's how they manifest all of this, is through our imagination. They show us something like a tease, and then it gets us to imagine it. And then once we imagine it, well, now it will actually manifest. So when they show you a movie, like a doomsday movie, that could happen, then we all give our energy and power to it. Well, now we've created enough imagineering to manifest it potentially. You see? So you may think, oh, well, I didn't mean it when I thought that. But that is the power of God embodied, is your imagination is how you manifest. And if you are not using your imagineering for you and for expansion and bliss and unity, then you are actually creating this situation we're in. And I mean you as in all of us, okay? Because I mean, we're all guilty here of doing this. Secondary, your emotion is harvested. Emotion, because emotion drives the unaware human. The more aware you become, the less you are driven by your emotion. When you are very unconscious, you are 100% driven on your emotion. Everything is emotional. Everything is personal. Everything is about that emotional experience. And so you are herded and drained through your emotion. Okay. Now, one of the things is they have only negative emotion. They don't have the ability to feel love because they are not connected to God. They're connected to the simulation of death, which means they have a death, they feel death all the time. And so when you have those dark thoughts, that's not you. Because who you are in nature is life. Who you are in nature is love. Who you are in nature is all. You are the I am, which means you are eternal life. So when you have negative thoughts, they are not coming from the true nature of you. So the way that your emotions are harvested is you are literally played like cat and mouse constantly. But let me go through the big ones to make sure that I don't forget, because this literally could be like a 6-week class. And I'll probably get back into this in the master class, because you've got to see why you're overthinking every day and so damn tired. Have you ever wondered why you, a human that is literally God embodied, are so exhausted halfway through the day? You know, and even if you're trying to eat well, like you feel drained all the time, even if you're not around negative people. How is that happening? Okay, so emotional harvesting. Okay, they're going to harvest emotions. They're also going to program you to have more negative emotions as your default, which means if you feel joy, oh, it's just a matter of time till the shoe drops. That is going to be in your, like, that's your default setting. It's not like that's normal. That's like in every human, because you've experienced so much of that. They cannot generate their own imagination. They cannot generate love emotion. Oh, most importantly, because I get this question so much, this energy, the spirit of death does not have the capability to read your minds. Okay. This is why every manifestation teacher says, don't share it until it starts to bloom. And the reason why is because if you start creating your own world, well, let's go real neutral here, and then let's take a look into a beehive. Okay, there is an order and there is a system in the beehive. And although if you actually studied what was going on in that beehive, you would think it was demonic, because basically the queen bee has a very certain agenda. And she is not emotionally connected to all of the worker bees whatsoever. They are there to do something until they cannot do it anymore, and then they're casted out, and they're left to die. All right, and I studied all of this because I was working with bee venom in my skincare, so I literally studied all of this. But they're almost supernatural in nature because they shouldn't be able to fly, so they're very fascinating if you want to look at it. But the hive mind idea is that as long as everybody is contributing to the whole, you can pretend that you're not a slave, as long as you're contributing. If you stop contributing to this hive mind and start thinking for yourself and keeping your energy and using your imagineering differently, well, let's just say this. If you've ever seen a movie, which I have 3 recommendations for cartoons to watch this week, okay? One is, and I don't remember if they're Disney or Pixar, probably, because they always tell you the truth in plain sight. A Bug's Life, okay? A Bug's Life will show you like this situation I'm showing you. WALL-E is another cartoon. And then obviously Monsters Inc., because they're being the emotion is being harvested in that one. And then in WALL-E, like all the humans are like 600 pounds, and they're like, so, you know, sucking on 64-ounce sodas, and they're all watching TV, and, you know, they're all being utilized in some form. So it'll make sense if you watch those 3 movies. So your emotions are being harvested. And then also your physical labor is being harvested. Okay, so you are working for this system to make it the way they want it. Whatever job you do that isn't part of your soul's purpose or your spirit's purpose is to contribute to the build out of their new world energy, just so you know. So if you have a job where you're like not working for something that is new earth expansion, you are actually working to build their new world order somehow. And this is probably another reason why you're going to be feeling very drained, because it's very separate from your nature. Now, if you have to do that, that's just a belief system. I would say look at that differently, because when you start working on your purpose, you'll see that an entrepreneur, I mean, I can work 24 hours a day, but I'm not drained. It's different. It's a very different flow of energy when you're having to work a job that like literally is so far away from any part of your nature, that alone can create dis-ease. Okay, and I think you guys know that by now. All right, so your physical labor, your emotional energy, your imagination, okay, and then your chemical energy. So your chemical energy is all emotionally stimulated through symbolism, through spell casting, through hypnosis, through programming, through genetics. And the way they kind of move you is like a soundtrack to a movie. If they want to produce this type of emotion, they'll tell you this on the news. If they want you to get happy and fall in love because they're not getting enough energy from you, so they'll leave you alone for a while and let you fall in love. And then right when you fall in love, they'll disempower you and empty you because now you're a big vat of power. So what happens for them is when we start to get so lost in our nature and we're working for the system, we're like that bee that starts to not be worth much. And then that's when they look on your card to see are they an organ donor? Okay. Okay, good. We'll be able to at least use, when I say they use every part but waste it, I'm not lying. Because every single part of you has genetic of God in it. And so every single part of you can be used in a different way at different stages of your life. You are the most valuable as a human before the age 5, just so you know. Because your energy is pure, you're still connected to source, and they can get authority over you really easy through generational curses and generational spirits. So they can actually, if your parents have like if they're connected to the Freemasons somehow, there's going to be a pedophile in your family, guaranteed. Okay. So, and again, I've been studying all this and I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. I mean, when you look at it from a science level, you're like, they are not messing around. And here we are having our life, like road rage. That's a genetic, like road rage is actually an emotional dumping zone. So they create blockages on the highway because in those places, you're going to be so enraged. That's a lot of power for them. So that are harvesting and they create different emotional responses on different places of the world to get a certain emotion that they are utilizing to basically fuel what they don't have naturally. They don't have source energy. They are 100% battery operated. Okay. We are also immortal in nature, but we are taught very, very early that we die at this age. And, our mom died from cancer. So now we've got that in our subconscious mind that is just waiting for that vibration. So you think, okay, well, then why would they want us all poisoned up with all the pharmaceuticals and blah, 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 blah. And here's the thing. If you've ever been like around someone who is really low vibration, they don't care about the quality of the wine or the quality of the drug. They just want the drug. And they know that if they can medicate the nation or the world, although it won't be as pure as a child that's 5 or under, that the medication and the toxicity of your blood and your body is worth it for them because you're controllable that way. So it's almost like create a sedative human that I can literally just milk all the time. Every part of you is milked. Okay. Your sexuality is milked constantly. Like they showed me when men are watching porn like a couple of times a day, that they showed me like cows getting milked, because that is like that 5-year-old little kid. Every time a man has an orgasm and gives his power away, that is a huge power source for them. Okay. And when I say them, I mean the spirit of death. Okay. And again, we all know that it's like the ones that are running this world. There's an agenda and it has nothing to do with money and war. It is literally about you as the commodity. So all those blood banks, right? That energy is not going where you think it's going. So all of those women who had a cramp and their doctor told them, I think you need a hysterectomy. You didn't need a hysterectomy. So a lot of the human body is being used before the time it was ready for it to be deceased, because what they're doing, this is probably why this is going to get taken down, but at least you guys will see it, is they have been basically taking parts from us for a very long time to kind of build an AI version where they wouldn't have to deal with God in the mix. Whereas, like, because they have to follow all of these rules under God's law. And the thing is every single thing that I just shared with you that they are harvesting us from is we are 100% agreeing to it. 100%. So when you say, well, I guess take my, my lady parts out because I don't want to get cancer, you're writing your name on that. You're saying yes. And the thing about this game, we could say it's not fair, is they are completely allowed to trick you. Because what God says is, I made you in my image. They shouldn't be able to trick you. And if they do, then you're going to learn from it. And you're going to learn that this is the tough love that is going to wake you up. Now, ultimately, you don't need that part if for some reason it gets taken, because ultimately you are spirit and you are the spirit of life. So we will see as we get into more higher dimensional states that you can regrow anything, that you can remanifest anything you've lost, because you're unlimited in nature and you are supernatural and you are life, which means you could regrow anything you imagined. But can you imagine growing a new uterus? Probably not, and therefore you won't do it. And see, the thing is we also have these collective limitation beliefs. We all think we're going to die at this age. This is why you have a birthday. So remember, I've always taught you guys, don't take score, take stock. Well, every year you take score. Do you know that birthdays are one of the biggest energy harvesting days? And the reason why is because it's an exciting day, but then you realize I am not where I want to be. And you feel disempowered, and they are looshing all of that yummy energy. And now you are taking score of how old you are getting. And you create another limiting belief where I should be here, I should be doing this, I should have more. And so this is kind of why every time you have a birthday, there's always kind of like that negative energy behind it, or you are having the best day ever and you're not feeling bad about your age, and so someone ruined your birthday. Because again, the whole idea is to build you up so you get full and then empty you. This is why when you have really great news and you go share it with someone you love and trust, they are Mr. Smith to make you feel you should be questioning that. And then because it's coming from a source that you love, they're allowed to channel through your best friend. And she's like, I don't know if that's good. And disempowered. You've just lost all that. And now you have doubt. So the thing is to understand that your true power here is not, I'm not trying to scare you today, but the thing is information is power. And we who have been on a metaphysical journey, we have had a lot of religious wounding. We have had a lot of family wounding. That's like one of the ways that you get on a spiritual journey is you have family trauma and you have religion trauma. And that's how you find yourself in the metaphysical world, basically, because you're looking for kind of a neutral, non-dualistic approach to who you are, which is perfect, as long as you aren't carrying the religious trauma into your metaphysics and you aren't carrying your family trauma into the metaphysics, because what you resist, you get. So if you have the spirit of poverty in your generational curse, it don't matter what ideas you have and how hard you work, you will deal with that poverty spirit. So again, there's a lot here that's going to be in the demonology classes that I'm going to be giving you guys in the this new year. But today it's just about harvesting, because there's been so many times this year where I said, don't interact or react. Okay. And now I can tell you why from the spirit world. Before, it was because we realized that what we give our energy to is we recreate the program. which is true. Okay. So if something negative happens to me, but I've been working on that particular pattern, like I'm aware of that pattern, I'm aware that that is one of my rejection wounds or my abandonment wounds or whatever, and I know that is my wound and I'm aware of it, and I choose to interact with it, then what I do is I do reset that pattern in the subconscious. And then that energy that I react to. See, you think that you're taking your power back when you're angry. You're actually pushing your energy at someone else. So you're pouring water into whoever you're angry with, you're pouring your energy towards them, even if it's all in mind. And then they are going to have some sort of emotional response that either disempowers them from your anger. So now basically it's a win-win for them because they got all of your negative energy, and then they got someone else's life force energy from the defense of the disempowered. So every single time you feel disempowered, you are being drained of your life force energy. Okay. So when you are contemplating and you're angry, that's your emotional energy. When you're having fake fights, emotionally drained. This is why like you're just exhausted. Now, every single thing that we just discussed, whether you're in your imagination, you're in your awakened emotions, reaction, response, everyday life, all of those things create chemical emotion or chemical reactions or hormonal reactions. So hormones are where they want the blood and the body to be in to be ultimately controllable. Okay. So one of the exorcism classes that I took, I mean, this stuff is so fascinating. When you aren't triggered by it anymore, it's like a great movie because you're learning the science of this whole game here. And this exorcist says that because like he's one of those OG exorcists, but he's like super cool. Like you'd want to hang out and talk to him. He's not like super chill. And he was talking about how that during different exorcisms, he knows all of these different like fallen angels by like name, and he knows what they do and what they look like and how they manifest. And he's had many conversations with Satan himself, and Satan has told him that we want the kids' subconscious mind ownership before they turn 5. And so the thing is you are groomed to have rejection, to be humiliated, fear of abandonment. You will be abused in some form, and that's on different levels. Okay. And I have all these written down that I will put in you guys' notes, but those are the main ones. Okay. So that you are basically completely moved away from your natural source connection. Okay. So regardless of how loving your parents were, no matter even how like spiritual they were, if they are part of the collective consciousness, then they were groomed to make sure that you experienced all of these things I said before the age of 5, because the age of 5 is when you have the most power in that remembrance, in that physical body. And so if they can get your subconscious completely programmed to the hive mind, because the hive mind is the rejected. So you think of Satan's like his downfall. Okay. He was prideful and he was kicked out of heaven. So he was rejected and he was abandoned. So what he wants for humans is everything he experienced. So whatever he experienced, he wants our nature and personality to be built out of the same. Because if we all have the same wounding that he received, then we all have that familiar ideas, beliefs, like we're all working off the same lack. And so by 5 is when we start to go to school. So we have that separation from our parents. We have time where everything is hurry up, we're going to run out of time. Like we start to get scared. We start to lose our freedom. And then by the time we're in that 7-year cycle, like that is when the subconscious mind kind of hardens up and acts like a hard drive. See, we believe that like belief systems are software, but the first 7 years is hardware. That's why they call it the root trauma, the root wounds. And there are demonic spirits that are assigned to families to make sure that the kids receive these particular wounds, especially if you are highly spiritual in nature, which means you come through and you're an indigo kid, they're targeting you. Okay. You come through and you're sensitive, or you're one of the seeds that came here to end this. You might have a lot of subliminal information going through your loving parents. All right. That had nothing to do with how your parents were going to love you or not. And that depending on how big your purpose was here, it could start as easily as the womb. Now, let's look at the story of Jesus. Right? Satan wanted to get rid of Moses, so this didn't happen. So if they know you're coming and they know you got this big purpose inside of you, you might have been targeted in the womb, which means no, they cannot know who they are. Now, if we were not so damn powerful, would they have to do any of this? No. And this is the thing, is one of the brainwashings that we received early on is that we have no value. None. None. Right? If you're a man who can't do this, no value. If you're a woman and you can't do this, no value. So what happens is they got their baseline information of how they were going to stop the Great Awakening. And they're cocky as hell. They got their information through the genocide of Nazi Germany. Okay. They believe that they figured out how to keep us asleep through that genocide. But see, they don't know that imagination, okay, that at any time I could tap in to my infinite perfection of myself, where none of my energy is drained and my emotions aren't being harvested and I'm not in a negative relationship and I can't remember in that moment that my mom didn't love me. And I could tap in and I could be fully reorganized in that moment. And if I decided to not react and not respond, okay, and not, buy in to the stories of the collective, because even the things you're seeing right now as the Great Reset, the more you look at that, the more of a probability it's going to be. The more you're worried about what's going to happen to your money, the more you are bringing that experience to you. Okay. So you have absolutely no power in your worry or in your apocalyptic survival training. You are literally guaranteeing that probability for yourself. And because you are probably a very high-ranked being, when you don't have this heavy subconscious mind you're carrying around, then there is going to be more eyes on you than someone who hasn't woken up to any of this yet. So one of the things that I got a big hard spank for last year was that when you are working for God, or when your career is to be a messenger or a guide, and you are not in alignment with yourself all the way, you are going to receive more training. And I don't want to say punishment, but that's what it feels like. Because the thing is we should know better, right? So it's like if there was two kids and a 15-year-old drew on the wall and a 2-year-old drew on the wall, who do you think would get more punishment? The 15-year-old, right? How many times have you called yourself an old soul? How many times have you felt like you're smarter than everyone around you? Well, if you have those two experiences, then God is also going to expect more from you. Okay. You cannot be working for the system, complaining about the system, feeding the system, taking trash care of your body, and feel better than everyone else and not get a huge rude awakening at some point. Just FYI. Okay. And I went through all of it last year, because the thing is when I said at the beginning of this, all false light will come out. Make sure you don't fall into that category, because there were some areas in me that I was leading with in certain ways I did not know was not love and light, but wasn't. Because remember, we've been raised with Satan's personality, not God's. Think about that. If you were indoctrinated by age 5, you're going to think and feel more like who runs this planet. Now, your spirit isn't going to feel that way. That's why there's such a contradiction within you. Because see, here's the thing is, you think you are your conscious mind, but your subconscious mind is the self-concept that but is the same personality of rejection, of abandonment, of humiliation, of guilt, of shame, of loss. Because everything you love here is lost. Because the spirit of death is going to be what is the vibrational energy of your subconscious, which means if you have too much love, you will lose something, because that's not what your subconscious mind was programmed for. Your subconscious mind was programmed to follow the breadcrumbs of hope. And I love it. You guys know that I've been teaching since quantum fitness that hope is a drug. Well, this exorcist said it's called hopium, because the whole collective uses hope as a breadcrumber for you. So when you start to develop hope, that is coming from you're about to go into another program. You are not going to be breaking away from the matrix. So there's a lot of us out there that think that we are breaking out of the matrix by doing certain things. But we know that this is an imagination. We know that this is an emotional journey. We know this is a feeling journey. So your actions really have little to do with whether you are connected or not to the matrix, because of where those actions are being motivated from. If your actions are being motivated from lack, you're actually creating more lack. If your motivations are coming from completion and love and abundance and prosperity, well, then you are actually starting to build your own world through your thought, words, and deeds. So the way that people are harvested throughout their lives is on different levels of their physical, emotional, and chemical health. So let's say that you are just really unhealthy, like you don't take care of your body, you don't watch what you're watching, and so you're getting programmed like by icky shows all the time. You got really negative people, and you're just kind of like medicating and just kind of like getting through it. So what you would be used for is kind of like an experiment. Okay, so you're the one who would receive the new drug from the doctor. And it would mean only like, we want to know the results. We'll give you these free drugs and just let us know what happens with this guy. Because the thing is someone who is constantly taking in negativity is going to be highly addicted to emotion, which means that they need to feel better. They need something. They're obsessive, they're addictive in nature, and they will take anything from the doctor. And so those people are used as experiments. So like COVID, right? Like, who's going to take this vaccine? Let's see. Who's going to have the spirit of fear right now? And who is going to have the spirit of rebellion? And either one was right or wrong, because you can fast that vaccine out in 3 days, by the way, if you do a dry fast, just a FYI, completely. So again, you're immortal in nature. All you have to do is take responsibility for what you did when you were unconscious, and you're right as rain, okay? You're as white as the snow, trust me, because you have a built-in protective mechanism called Christ's blood. So you're going to be fine no matter what you've done when you were unconscious, because that's what another way that we are controlled is through our past. So when you go into your past and you start to go into lower vibrations of the past, they are draining your life force energy of the present moment through your awareness of the past. So what is the first thing that happens when something good happens in this present moment? What's that secondary thought? It's going to take you to the past when something bad happened. or when you failed, or when you, what if that happens again? That ain't you. That is the button that they push to drain the excitement off of the moment because you got too bright. Okay. Because here's the thing, they love the life force energy in doses, but they cannot handle you in your life force energy all the time, because even one human would blind them like a vampire in the daytime. They want you full of it. They want you church on Sunday, feeling the Lord, and they'll dump it as soon as you get home and watch something negative. So you have to understand how you are being harvested out of your good moods, out of your joy, out of your, it's all strategic farming. Okay. And so this is why we say our affirmation is, I get to stay happy right now. I get to stay in this joy. Because what's going to happen, you'll notice every single time, and we've called it echoes over the years, but now that I've gone in and healed all of my religious trauma, okay, which is something I needed to do last year to get really right with the creator, was when I started to learn all about really the two sides of this game, okay? Because it's not really the occult that is controlling everything, because it's coming from a demonic rule underneath. It's the spirit of death that manages the occult, right? And again, the occult isn't necessarily bad in nature. It's just how the information is used, how the Bible is used, because the occult uses the Bible. And and the thing is like, we have all of these other systems, but we're also told by religion that if you use this other system, that's a sin. So I would say that people who have been religiously traumatized probably have some of the greatest purpose inside of them, but you'll always be missing out on some information that you need to be completely whole, which isn't the religion, but it is the realization that you are playing with two real sides here. And that when you feel half dead inside, that should be looked at, because you are 100% alive. So if your libido is dead, you probably you're being drained somewhere there. So this is so convoluted. Those are like the major ways. Okay. So if someone is very emotionally driven, they're kind of utilized as a walking experiment. Now, the more unconscious you are, the more your body can be used as a channel. Okay. Kind of like what I do and what other people do. So the more conscious you are, God will use that part of you to channel through you. But I could have unconscious parts that God won't channel through when it comes to me, because I am fractal in nature until I am whole. So that's why when you see someone who's really amazing channeling, but then you're seeing things that they're doing over here that are bad, that isn't for you to judge. That is just one part of them that is vibrating in a lower consciousness. They don't have access to that part yet. They're working on getting it back, but it has nothing to do with whether their information is pure or not. Okay. Now, the opposite is always going to be happening, which means the more someone is unconscious, the more that they're going to be used to channel as well. So God will channel through consciousness, and the other dude will channel through unconsciousness. That's why all of a sudden you could be having a great day and somebody down the street just starts chewing your ass. Like, what the hell? Especially if your energy was getting too full. Someone will be activated in your vicinity to drain you. And it's like clockwork, whether it's road rage or, your mom's not happy for you. It doesn't have to be an attack, because the thing is, the more joyful you are, the more you want other people to be joyful. So when you're around someone who's not joyful, that could drain you just right there. You walking into your house in a great mood and your partner isn't, because the thing is one thing that I said, they don't have imagination. They don't have high emotion of their own. They only have the emotion of death. What they do have is emotional intelligence. Okay. And what they do have is they have the brain of God, because God created them to know how to service him. Okay. So their level of intelligence is beyond. They know mind control. They know, that's what all of the movies have been. And they want to see how we are responding from movies and which ones get us thinking and worrying, and which ones create. If you've noticed, the Disney movies especially have like a lot of hope a lot of loss, like you're going to lose a parent, you're going to lose something. Okay. And then in the end, because they know people wouldn't go to the movies if everybody died, they'd make it a happily ever after because they want to leave you hopeful. But the movie is designed to study mind control and put you under mind control. All right. So that's why this priest said, and please don't ask me who this is right now, because I know someone just said, oh, I want to ask her who this is. If you want to go find it on your own, but it's not part of my curriculum yet to give you all this information. Okay. If you want to go study exorcism now, go find it. But I'm going to put it into my curriculum. So I'm just letting you know what I'm studying. What he said he says that someone who's very high in consciousness can hold their vibration in any movie, just so you know. So I'm not telling you to not go watch movies or anything like that. But what he did say, and I've heard this so many times from my favorite pastor as well, do not listen to mainstream music, okay? Because it is demonically programmed. Pretty much everything after like the early 90s, like beginning of the 90s, early 90s is when it started to get very demonic in nature. So like old school hip hop, good. New hip hop, no. Okay, just FYI. I mean, of course I had to know that. But you'll see that there is a lot of music that may make you feel really excited, but it's actually subliminally programming you because it's a lower frequency in nature. Another thing that they do is, just like we can bless our food, and just like we can bless our water and we can bless the sky, well, they also, when they put anything big out in nature, whether it's your favorite Cheetos or your favorite song, they have demonic spell casting over that item, over that food plant, over that music. And they are inserting the spiritual nature that they want you to ingest, hear, and become. So not only do they get you at 5 years old, okay, they try to stay with you the whole life. Because if you're rejected, they know you're going to behave this way because they have emotional intelligence. So, like, we would never defeat them with intelligence. And this is the number one reason why you have no power in your mind. Okay? Because the intelligence level of the mental capability, the logistic nature of the spirit of death, it would destroy you no matter how smart you think you are. Which means that this is why the Bible says the meek will inherit the earth. When you think you are so smart that you can outdo this, that's where you're not being meek. The humble, right? The humble will get everything. And not that you're humble and weak and like, oh my gosh, but that you know that you're never going to defeat the nemesis that is a billion times smarter than you and has been on this planet for who knows since creation, basically. So the thing is, this exorcist said is that there is a lot of the companies that you work for are all fake, and what they actually do is they study human behavior. So you might be paying to work for like a car company and it's just a facade, and that what they're really doing is studying human behavior. Because there's companies that you see, and then there's companies here, and then there's companies here, and then there's research, and then there's all these things that happen all the way below the surface to figure out how to continue to imprison your subconscious mind. Because as long as they are controlling what you believe and what you want and what you need, you are going to do what you are told. Okay? So, gosh, we're already at 11. I literally could go 1,000 more years on this. But one of the last things is, I know that some of your parents are in this situation, and this is gonna trigger you a little bit. But I'm gonna give you a couple little power plays before I wrap. But in the masterclass, I am actually going to show you every way to hold your own power and to help your loved ones hold their own power as well. Okay. That's a whole class, but I'm going to give you a couple little tips so you don't be like, oh my gosh, now what do I do? I'm not going to leave you in that. But one of the things is as you've kind of gone through your hamster wheel of life and you've been playing out the same patterns and you've been playing out the same issues, and your highs and lows are getting less extreme, you become less valuable. Okay. So if I'm not falling in love every 6 months and then going into some sort of toxic relationship, like I don't have a lot of value in my life force energy. So like once the life force energy once your sexual energy is no longer being able to be used because you just don't have any of it, and your life force energy isn't extremes where you're just kind of like the turtle that moves at this power and you're on like 4 different medications, then they will utilize you as a pair of eyes, which means that someone who's just looking out becomes like a way to channel by watching. And they can look through your TV and blah, 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 and all that stuff, but they'll literally like just like walk around like as like eyes to see. They'll be able to control the bodies very easy. And also they'll be able to channel spirit through because there's not a lot of discernment there. And if you've noticed that your parents that have fallen ill or old people that start to fall ill, all they want to do is sit by the TV and they're watching news all day, right? And that's just coming in and it's going out into the rest of the space. And then they are watching not what's happening on the TV, but they're watching how it affects everybody. So again, on so many different levels, they're utilizing the human. I mean, we're the ones who's turning on the TV. We're the one, and then what we're doing is we're telling other people what we're seeing. And so, like, again, there's probably 6 or 7 other ways that this is happening. But one of the ways that you stay stuck in this is to hold on to what can be used against you. Okay. So when you feel guilt and shame, you are going to have motivations within you that are going to keep you from keeping your energy. Okay. When you have a lot to confess, whether it was intentional or not, and so basically the secrets that you keep or the wounds that you keep that you do not purify, that is what creates ignorance. Because the ignorance is like, I'm going to have to quote what he said. He said that humans have become so ignorant because we're so full of guilt and shame. And because we're so full of guilt and shame, our motivating factors of life are making us dumber. Because we're choosing our intelligence based on our wounding. Not what we're capable of, but we're choosing our intelligence based on where our pain is. And that is making us a culture of being dumbed down. Because I said, like in the original game, the Adam and Eve game, like the human IQ was like ridiculously high. And it's just gotten, over the years, it's gotten slower and slower. So one of the things that they did in the Nazi camps was that's when they tested fluoride in the water to see if it would make us sedative, which it did. And when we're sedative, we don't care. Okay, fine. We want something to be easier. All right. And there's a bunch of different types of heavy metals that are used. I mean, like if you go outside right now and you have snow, take a magnet. You'll probably notice that your snow is sticking to the magnet because they're spraying aluminum in the air. And because again, what heavy metals are going to do is they're going to kind of like entrap your ability to be magnetic. Remember manifesting? So the more metal you have in your body, the more parasitic energy can be present, but also more you're a lot less magnetic. Now, then we have the plastic energy. The plastic energy, like if you've seen like plastics in your eggs and your chicken, also take a magnet to your meat and see if your magnet sticks to the meat. I would immediately take it back to the store and show them. They might not know where they're buying from, so don't go into some judgment on this grocery store. But research all items. Don't buy anything from Bill. I shouldn't even say his name. You know who he is. I don't want this video to get taken down. I'm sure they have it might, but who cares? I'm not going to be in resistance of it. You guys saw it. That's enough. Anything that he's owned, okay? Baking soda and mineral water or distilled water and vinegar will get 80% of the pesticides off of your fruit and veg, okay, if you want to. But ultimately, the more aware and conscious you get, if you've been doing a lot of imagineering work, just imagine your food different because you are the dominant frequency. You don't have to go through any of these physical hoops. You don't have to pray over your food. I mean, because the thing is the only reason that you're going to have to take any sort of precautions in your physical reality is if you are not thinking for yourself. Okay, because you don't have a lot of imagination power because you're imagining they poisoned my apple, and that's going to create the apple that is going to give you the allergy. Okay. So that's kind of like the harvesting. Like, I mean, it's when you look at it from a non-duality perspective, it's pretty genius because of how many thousands of years they have been studying humans. Now, here's the funny thing to me is in all of this, all of these wars that were really not wars at all, because I had hundreds of military clients over these years, and they always tell me, like, we didn't know what we were signing up for, and it wasn't for creating freedom. Some of them higher up knew why they were there, some of them still don't. But again, the whole idea, the last thing I'm going to say is what is going to be targeted the most in this last phase before whatever definition of reset you have is the sacral energy. Okay. And so it's, again, another genius model. When they infiltrate the family early, their whole design from the demonic realm is to separate the parents from each other. You don't want a team, because the masculine and feminine is the strongest force when they're in unity together. That could be possible, because you've got a grower and a builder. And then you put that together with love, that could defeat a whole army right there. So the marriage is infiltrated just as hard as the early childhood development. So they get the family separated. Okay. Well, and then what they do is they create a cost of living that disempowers a family to be able to survive without two incomes. And that's all part of this as well, because if the mom is home raising the kids, that kid is not going to get humiliated and rejected and all kinds of stuff. So then after the war, they did more testing, and they found that when women would go to work and would have scarcity, then they were more efficient in the work world than men, because men weren't designed to be slaves. Men weren't designed to be like caretakers. So women were actually better employees because they could take leadership. Men, they realized, were going to be better used for something else, like war and things like that, where they could have their complex. And then that was going to emasculate them on their own. And then what would happen was, when a woman is in her masculine energy, her whole feminine, like genetic, spiritual DNA alters, and she can no longer transmute sexual energy into energy. What she does is she has to take it on, because she's not in her feminine energy. If she's in her masculine and she has sex with somebody, she will actually integrate that DNA into her. And the reason why is this is like a fundamental evolution, is that if she doesn't feel safe, she's got to become more masculine. So she'll actually start taking the DNA to become a man. This is how she will create her own sex change, because now she will also download the pain of that man and the personality of that man, because she's in nature shapeshifter. So we are creating infertility for ourselves as women when we live a life through our masculine energy. Now, what happens for a masculine energy when he feels disempowered? He's going to feel the most empowered through sex. So he's going to go search out seduction rather than pursuing, and he's going to look at numbers versus like quantity over quality, because that's what gives him a false sense of empowerment, just like a woman being a man is a false sense of empowerment. So when he extracts his masculine seed, he's completely disempowered as soon as that happens. And now he's got to build himself back up. So it's like the women are getting this masculine confidence, and the men are getting this feminine shame and insecurity that they don't want anyone to know about. So then I tested the market. I thought, okay, so if men are becoming more feminine in nature, because the more a man masturbates, the more estrogen he creates in his body. Now, there's something in the tap water, okay, that is making frogs become homosexual, just FYI. At least in the United States. I don't know if it's all over the world, but I just studied it. And again, that's another part of this agenda, because if they can have a whole homosexual masculine race, the Christ can't be born again. No more Christ consciousness, okay? And if the women are infertile and we're becoming men, then we're edging ourselves out just this way. So you could look at that as another form of harvesting our own divinity away by being emotionally driven. Okay, because that's all emotional drive. Like, I don't feel safe, I need to get laid. Like, that's completely emotional. It's emotion, it's a lack of emotional intelligence. All right. So, and it comes from a wound, because women don't become men unless they're wounded, unless they're not safe. Men do not become women unless they're wounded or not safe. So you got to look at your own reality and decide, you know, with the heavy metals and the fluoride and the neurotoxins and the plastics, okay, then that is going to be one layer that you're going to have to outcreate. You're going to have to be more conscious than that, because food is information. Everything you're taking in all day long is information. And so you've got to have a really solid connection to source energy, which is why I had to get really right with creator, because there's a lot of demigods. There's a lot of other gods to choose from. If you can't get to source, there's lots of other things that you can tap into that will make you feel good for the moment. And this is what my guides told me, is how do you know the difference between creator and a god that's like wanting to breadcrumb you to get you excited or getting you seeking? Is it'll be two things. When you study this particular god that is not direct creator, you'll always be wanting more. You'll need to know more. You'll feel like, oh, if I need to learn this now, or I'm almost there. It's going to be a god that causes you to seek. Okay. It's going to be one that takes you into a journey. Creator is fulfillment. It's 100% peace. It's 100%. I don't need to learn anything. I just need to sit in this energy. I don't need to even know my name right now. So it is consistent. It's everlasting. It's complete. There's no question of the simplicity of your creator. The ones that cause you to go on a journey and study their lineage and blah, 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 that might not be the best route if you don't have a sovereign foundation in your creator yet. Just saying, you know, and I think all metaphysics people have been through that. Or almost like the more we dig into metaphysics, the more confused we are. And this is what my guide said, is if it's a rabbit hole, it's not God. Because God is literally like right here, all in the light, nothing is hiding, nothing is being eliminated. You are made in my image, but you have free will. Like, that's it. And if you start asking for salvation, that might be when a demonic attack comes, because that's going to get you to move. Comfort does not move you. That's why I've been saying in every class, don't do that. Don't start asking. Don't ask for more. Don't ask to know God. Don't ask for any of this if you aren't willing to deal with the manifestation of what's in the way. Okay? Because your false beliefs have to come to light. Your negative motivations have to become aware to you. Your own sin that you're hiding from yourself, your own separation, needs to be exposed. So you need to attract that guy that's going to totally slap you up, because that's going to be the thing that goes, wait, oh my gosh, I don't love myself. So that's where God will use the demonic realm, not to harass you, but if you're asking and you're not the vibration of where he is, he will use the vibration of something underneath you to push you up. And that's how it works. Because when you ask, it's given. And they are 100% under God's control. So even the most horrible things on the planet are all part of the plan. But the thing is like I said, yes, we've all been on this journey collectively. But now that we have this awaken, you know, it's like this new age of awakening that started basically really early in the 1900s, but has gotten very, very fast since 2012. Okay. And then COVID even accelerated that more. See, every negative was a shortcut. Every worst possible thing that has ever happened to you is actually your greatest shortcut. But see, you've also been programmed to see that bad things mean that it's bad. And that's actually not true. but realizing that when we feel disempowered, we are, because that's how magical we are. So the name of the game this year is Get Right with Your Creator. And I'm not going to give a name to that because that's between you and what you call God. Okay. Get clean, get all your, anger. I mean, you basically, since you were a little tiny girl, have been programmed to think God doesn't love you. And that was part of that 5-year plan. Okay. Where do you think that 5-year plan idea came from? That's where it is. 5-year plan. So get you to think God doesn't want you. Because if mom and dad don't, well, of course God wouldn't. So some of you might still have that belief system. And when you're trying to work on moving forward and connect it, you're not feeling it. But it's only because that belief system exists. So that's what I'm saying is the first thing we need to do here is get right with that creator. And the way that you're going to be able to build a relationship with your creator is to move at the speed of your creator, which is the stillness. Okay. When you are not driven emotionally, but you are able to sit in the presence and just feel the feelings of yourself instead of being driven by emotion. Feeling emotion and being driven by emotion, 2 different things. Okay. I could have the emotion that I'm hungry right now. That's going to trigger a drive. I want to eat something. Or I could sit with my creator and we could both feel the hunger. Because one of the fastest ways to get to creator is to fast. Because what you realize is you're not hungry. That you're starved of your creator. You're starved of your spirit. And that you've been depleted. I mean, there might be people in your living room channeling and dumping you. And you know what? This is why you can let go of judgment for everyone for the rest of your life, because it's never them. It's never them. If there's an opportunity to empty you, it will be your husband. It will be so-and-so. Because unless they are fully conscious, they aren't going to be able to say no through that channeling. And so what we need to do is stop blaming people for putting us in a bad mood. Stop blaming people for not clapping when we have a good time. Stop blaming people for firing us. Because again, God is playing the same exact game that the other one is, but one is trying to get you to expansion and awaken, and one is trying to get you back asleep. But it is the game. And it's always been a spiritual war, but you are a spiritual being. And everything you see on the surface is a decoy. Money is a decoy to control you because they print the money. So it's never been about that. They know that you are complete, that you didn't come down here working towards your Christ. You came down here as the Christ, and then you were falling asleep. So the more asleep you are, the more emotionally driven you're going to be, the more fearful you're going to be, the more shameful you're going to feel, the more guilty you're going to feel. So if that is parts of you in certain areas, because here's the thing, the emotional intelligence of the dark knows which buttons to push for you. They know you because they study you. All right. But God knows you because he made you. So one is looking at you to see what it can get from you. And one is looking at you because they love you. So if you attract people that are constantly taking from you, you might want to pay attention to that. If you are someone who constantly gives but doesn't get anything back, you might want to pay attention to that. That's a lot of the spiritual community. And again, like I said, I just wanted to give you the teaser of this, but I want you to open your perspective, because right now you might be looking at the world and feel very disempowered by what you're seeing. The level of exposure that you're going to witness over the next 3 months, like there's going to be a lot coming out between now and March of 2024 that is going to make you go, oh my gosh, like, where am I? Like, I knew I was in a dream, but I didn't know it was this much of a dream. Okay. Now you can go in 2 directions with this. You can be like, this just disenchants me from this world. I'm going to my imagination. I'm going to go be with God. I'm going to go create my own world, which you will quantum teleport at some point. Or you can study it and you can talk about it and you can feel about it and you can contribute your energy to it even if you disagree with it, because there's no beating this thing. Like I said, when we try to do things on our own, this is why in like the Christian world, there's so much obedience to God, which was, I will tell you, a big turnoff for me. Because again, the thing is when they get you groomed by age 5, there's going to be a couple personality traits that are going to make sure that you don't go back to God. Number 1, rebellion. Number 2, pride. Those 2 personality traits that you develop from your grooming, okay, you're also going to be secretive. And that is where they can control you, is through the secrets that you hold in your heart. Your pride and your rebellious nature is actually going to turn you off when the pastor says, you need to obey God. You're going to be like, what? I'm not obeying God. And the thing is we don't understand what that word means because it has been completely shamed. And the English language, which is the international language, what we all speak, is demonic in nature. The whole entire language is a spell cast to get you separated from your source. Even the way we greet ourselves, good morning, like it, if you look at it, like you'll always look at a word and you'll see a word in the middle of it and it's a negative word, like hello. So when you really start to look at the English language, you look like, okay, I've been groomed before 5, and now I have this language I have to speak that's entrapping my manifestations. I'm using my imagination to worry about what could happen tomorrow. And I'm a loving, kind person. And so I'm giving all my life force energy to healing other people, while basically I'm being used in other ways to create infertility and to keep shame at the root of all my meditations and my motivations. And I can't find God because I'm not obeying. I'm not going to submit to God. See, the thing is when a woman is in her masculine energy, she is very turned off by the idea of submitting, although she secretly wants it. But the idea of submitting to the religious form of God is quite scary. If you've been religiously programmed, the idea of being obedient and being submitting to God feels not right. So of course that was the big smack I had to go through, because what I didn't realize is that I'm not as smart as I thought I was. Okay. I'm not smarter than the energy that was basically breadcrumbing my career. And I didn't realize it. So as I've been practicing learning to submit, what you realize is that you're not letting go of your divine work here. You're being fully supported. You're being invested in. You're being protected. So like the idea that I got was like when you're like standing in a very dark room and there's a spotlight over you, okay? If I move 6 feet that way, I'm in the dark. I have no power. But if I stay right here in the stillness, be still and know that I am God, I will have light. I will be supported. I'll feel nurtured, but I can't run around. And so for a while, what you're going to see is that when you start to do your world, you're going to create an epigenetic world through your imagination. There's not really a lot of movement you can do, because that's where you get disconnected when you start chasing the breadcrumb. So you have to look at it like God's here and then the money's out there in the dark. Okay. That relationship that you shouldn't be in is in the dark. And you're like, oh, if I just leave for a minute. So that was kind of the idea. I was like, oh, I'm going to learn to stay here. And then when I have a trust relationship with God, we'll move together. But there is a period of time where you start kind of like letting go of the 3rd dimensional reality as your truth, deprogramming your subconscious mind, living in your imagination, where you kind of feel a little bit bored. You feel like I can't do anything, right? And either God will fast your life so you can't do anything, or you will be just like learning to submit. But then what is happening is now you are becoming the child of God you were designed to be, and all the dreams in your heart can now be manifested through prosperity, which is endless supply. But if we chase the money, or we chase the stories, or we chase our urges, then we've got to leave that vibration, and we are not supported. So God will use the monsters out there to chase you back in. Okay. And that's the purpose of why God will use a demonic attack against you, because it will make you come home. Another person breaking your heart will make you come home. And that is my class for today. So hopefully you guys got a little nugget out of that. This is not designed to scare you. This is designed to inform you and let you know that every area that I shared, you have complete choice. Okay? You have 100% choice whether you're giving that energy out. There's different things you can do with your sexual energy. There's different things that you can do with your mental energy, but you're going to have to learn to reroute them back in, right? Sexual transmutation, especially for men, okay? And women, not being promiscuous and not sleeping with someone that they don't feel safe in their own femininity with, because you're going to become them. Okay, that's just like, that has nothing to do with like, you know, celibacy or anything. It's just about being able, that energy of your sexual energy is the most potent part of you. And if you're in the master class, we're going to be working towards our total Christ expansion using that sexual energy this year. So again, just like food for thought and looking at your reality where you're actually being played. Because the thing is every human, we are a child of God. I would never hurt your feelings on purpose. You would never hurt my feelings on purpose. There is a freaking instigator. And the instigator is your human ego that was designed through your separation. So the byproduct of your 5-year grooming is your human ego. And that ego is in your ear your whole life. And now is the story of separation. The story that God doesn't love you. The story is that all men hurt me. The story is I have to work too hard. And that voice is now part of your recording, and it will motivate you and distract you. Okay. So last but not least, I've given you guys what I call the 5 Ds in the past. And these are the 5 ways that you are emotionally controlled. Okay. Well, I added 2 more because, of course, I found out that demons run in 7s. So there's actually 7 Ds. So I'm going to give them to you. Hopefully I won't forget any of them. Number 1 is doubt. As soon as you have doubt, you're out of that spotlight. Okay. As soon as you have a doubtful thought, you've moved out of the spotlight. And now you are free. You are in free range of the zombie apocalypse. Okay. So you're out of the spot as soon as you have a doubt. The next one is divergence. Divergence is designed to separate you from that light. Separate you from that light. To get you thinking, I can't trust this person. I'm going over there, or, you know, whatever it is. Diversion. Separate you from yourself and you from others. Because it's not just separation of you. Have you noticed the more spiritual you get, the more alone you want to be? That's not unity consciousness. That's separation consciousness. Just think on that one. All right. The next one is discourage. To kind of get you discouraged, frustrated, irritated. Okay. Resentful. All right. The next one is delay. To make you wait so that your mind starts attacking you. And now you're wondering, is this going to work? Oh my gosh, should I have done this? Question, doubt yourself, go into blame, all kinds of stuff. Whenever there's a delay, when you can't move, this is why they have so many interruptions and things take so long, is to get you into that state of delay where your mind will attack you. Because if you're moving in flow, that's life force energy. So designed to break flow is delay. Denial, okay? And there's a couple of different definitions there because the English language is trash. But denial is like when you get denied. When someone says no to you, that is a dump. Complete disempowerment. You just got emptied. Let's say you really need a loan and the bank's like, no. Even though you have all the money in the world and you own everything, they're going to tell you no. You just dumped, because it makes you feel devalued. It makes you feel worth less. And that's the design, is to not deny you. Okay. Your loved ones will deny you. The money will deny you. Your body will deny you. It's all part of the design. All right. And denial also is something that you do to yourself when you won't want to look at these things. So denial is used to empty you and keep you asleep, because when you're denying your own crap, that's another way that you are doing it against yourself. Okay. When the world tells you no, you start to hide the stuff that is no, so that you can pretend to have a good life. Okay. The other one is disappointment, because this is where you've been going in the wrong direction. Now, I say all that means is reappoint. Okay. But you're going to feel completely drained when you get disappointed. You're going to feel like really disempowered. So if you notice, all these sevens are going to either stop you in your tracks, freeze you, dump your energy, or get you thinking that something is out to get you. Okay. Paranoia, all kinds of stuff. And the last one, of course, I need to find this one. This is the one that feels the best. Distraction. Okay. Distraction. After a long day of being harvested like a cow, you come home and you just want to distract yourself. So you put something on, or you get on social media, or you eat something. So I'm feeling drained. I want to distract myself from this, because distraction creates dopamine. And dopamine is your false sense of joy. So if you can feel dopamine throughout your day, you won't realize that you are a slave. So dopamine is going to control your slave world. And you're going to seek the dopamine so that you can survive the day. And that's coming from distraction. Okay. So again, like there's probably like 6 more hours I could give you, but that's enough for today. And for those of you guys who are not joining us next year, this would be a great class to just watch again and kind of work off of, and be like, okay, do I want to go with the story that they want me to hear a part of a reset, or do I want to create my own reset? The age of Aquarius is very different than the energy that we've been sitting in for these last couple hundred years. That has been very much about grounded, empowered, and politics. We're moving into the age of Aquarius, which is the future version of you. So do you want to watch the world come apart the way that it will, as designed to include your energy into it? Or do you want to build your own new world? Well, then you're going to have to see where you are saying yes to your own harvesting. And the way that you can really become free is to clear out anything that could be used against you, and confront the lies that you were told that you were rejected and abandoned by God. And freaking let go of the story of your parents, because they were groomed to do that. They were doing the best that they could from their level of enslavement. So when we are blaming our parents at this stage of the game, when they literally were groomed to do this to you, that you're angry at the wrong energy. Because people that are born from God are inherently good until they are unconscious, and then they are controllable. So we can let go of that story. We can get real neutral. We can go, okay, this is just a really good game here. This is just negative and positive here. And I've been living a lie. You know, I've been buying into this, thinking that I was raising my consciousness. And you might be more asleep in certain areas based on where you are resisting things. Like, where am I denying things? Where am I resisting things? Where am I blaming? Where am I in resentment? That is not consciousness. Because I think what happens is spiritual people think consciousness is being aware that there's unconsciousness. So if you think consciousness is being aware of unconsciousness, the part of you that saw unconsciousness is asleep. And that's where pride is. Because if you look at it, the people who really had Jesus killed, it wasn't even Caesar. He was just trying to eat his grapes and have his money. Like, it was the Pharisees that set him up, because they wanted to be the ones that were powerful. So when we are in a spiritual ego and we don't realize that if I see someone asleep, it's actually the asleep part of me seeing them. because the awakened part of you would not see someone asleep. You would see the truth. So that is just food for thought, because you are being manipulated on all kinds of levels, even at your spiritual level. There is an emotional intelligence designed to reroute you. So that's why I'm saying, this is why, like, the closer you get to your own Christ itself, the stronger the connection to source needs to get, with no other distractions, because that's going to be where you have the truth of who you are, which is complete. No journey involved, no ascension involved. Like, you've already ascended. So when you feel like you have to do something, that's part of the program. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully you guys got a lot out of this year. You got to go through with me through hell, because I was in hell most of this year, climbing my way out. And now it's like neutral, neutral, neutral. But my favorite place is to be in that light. And I know that if I am in that space and I only move at the pace that God wants me to move, everything goes very smoothly and more abundant and more in prosperity than I could have ever imagined. So all I can do is share from my journey of waking up, because that's all it is. And, disconnecting from the lies. And then, like I said, your only real job here is to unlearn, because you actually know everything. Your body's genetic code says, I am God. So we are all under hypnosis to certain levels, but we're only on hypnosis through the belief systems of our own unconsciousness. So the food can't hurt us, the air can't hurt us, the plastics can't change our sexuality, if we become conscious of who we are. Because it can only hurt us if we feel we can be hurt. If you feel your body can be hurt, it can be, because that's how powerful you are. If you're like, that plastic's not going to do anything to me, if you alchemize it, that's all the Exorcist is doing, right? And he charges like $55 for it. You can do it for free. All right. Okay, guys, love you. Thank you so much for joining me this year. And I will see some of you next Wednesday in our new class. Bye, guys.